Focus. Who's the star here? Hi BookTube, I am Rebecca without my Sarah. Tragically, devastatingly, I was supposed to see her this weekend and then she got sick. Thanks, bitch. So today I am doing my March wrap up. Why do I keep forgetting what month it is? I have stats. I'm gonna... It's like not that much to memorize, but I'm still like, I can't. There's like 5 numbers. I can't do that. That's too many. I read 11 total books in March. 4 of them were audiobooks. I finally hooked up my phone to do audiobooks from the library, which is dope. I love it. Why didn't I do that before? And I got Bluetooth earbuds and I just kind of like sneak one in my ear and then work and pretend that I'm paying attention to everyone around me, and I'm not. I had 2 3.5-star reads, 5 4-star read, 1 4.5-star read, and 3 5-star reads. And this is pretty high. Nothing was under 3.5, and I still felt like I had kind of a mediocre reading month. Like, why? I'm such a finicky bitch. The first book I read in March was Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn, and I know it's Gillian Flynn now because I listened to the audiobook. I listened to this audiobook like in one sitting by accident. I put it on hold in my library and then it came up faster than I was expecting, so it's like, I guess I'm listening to this today, and then I listened to all of it today. Not today, that day. This was my 3rd Gillian Flynn. I read Gone Girl, then Dark Places, and I loved both of them, and I loved this one too. This was about a woman named Camille who is a reporter, and recently in her hometown a young girl was killed and now another one has gone missing. Her editor asked her to go to her hometown and find out the scoop. She doesn't want to go and she's very vague as to why, and she's very vague about her mental health, but we know it ain't grand, and then we start to figure it out. This was a really quick read and I fucking loved it. Major content warning for self-harm, like bad, and just in general, it's very dark, really messed up relationships. It's a heavy read. It has some of my favorite tropes, and in general, I just really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. I think 4.5, was it? I can't remember. I don't know. I don't know what I do. I don't know what I rate things. I don't know if I like books. I just read them. And then I gave it 4.5 stars. Those are my notes. My notes were 4.5 stars, and then Camille, or Camille. I don't even know how to say, I didn't put how to say it. I listened to this. I should know how to say the goddamn name. The next book I read is Force of Nature by Jane Harper. This is an Aaron Falk novel. It is kind of a sequel to The Dry, which I read in May of last year. I remember exactly when I read it because we were buying our house at the time. And it was literally the only book that I read that month because I was having such a huge slump. So I really didn't remember The Dry. I remember I liked it. It's kind of a murder mystery about this detective going back to his hometown after like his old friend and his family were all murdered. And I was almost about to be like, I love that shit. That sounds nightmarish. I like dark stories like that. So I did like it. I kind of want to reread it because it was iffy to me. I was in a bit of a slump and I was forcing it. This one I liked a lot more, and I could tell you the plot of this one without giving away The Dry at all. This is about a company that goes on a retreat. They like go hiking in the woods. They live in Australia, and they break up into 2 groups. The men go, you know, on one path, and then the women go on another. I think there's like 5 of them, and one of them doesn't come back. And Aaron Falk gets involved because he's an FBI agent, but he doesn't do like homicide or anything like that. He does like financial stuff. So he and his partner, what's his partner's name? Carmen. Oh my god, her name's Carmen. Okay, so Aaron Falk and his partner Carmen, they are investigating this company because they think they're committing some kind of fraud. Their informant is Alice, the woman who did not come back from the woods. So we are bouncing kind of between 2 times, Aaron and Carmen, and they're investigating the 4 women who came back, and we also get them, like, you know, the 5 women going out in the woods and getting lost in what actually happened to them. It was really good. I did really like it. I love survival stories and like stuff about being lost in the woods. I'm really into those kinds of novels. The ending, no spoilers on the ending. I haven't talked about this trope ever, but the ending is like my least favorite for a murder mystery trope. But I've found that murder mysteries are really hard and everyone feels very differently about what is considered a satisfying ending in a murder mystery. So I think a lot of people might have really liked this ending. It wasn't a trope that I like, but I still really enjoyed the book. It was fine. I didn't care that much about the ending. So which is funny. I feel like a mystery, you're supposed to give a shit, so many shits about the ending, and I was like, the rest was fun. Next up, I listened to Hunger by Roxane Gay. Damn. Finally read a Roxane Gay book. Finally. I've been really wanting to. This is, it's called Hunger, A Memoir of My Body. And it is about Roxane Gay's trauma in her life and her dealing with her body and her weight and just how it's affected her throughout her entire life. It's gut-wrenching, content warning for rape because she was raped when she was a child, and she goes into it in the book. Obviously, there's also like a lot of fat phobia and just harassment that Roxane Gay has dealt with. So it's a heavy read. If you are interested, the audiobook's so good. Roxane Gay reads it herself afterwards. I was like looking up interviews with her afterwards and times that she's just like spoken out about stuff, anything, because I just adore her. I'm excited to read more. Let me know if you have a recommendation for which Roxane Gay I should read next, because there's a few. Next up, I read The Wicker King by Ancrum. I read this because of my friend over at Brandy Reads. I met her at Booknet Fest, and we're kind of like in a group chat with other people we met at Booknet Fest, and one day she was like, oh my god, everyone, The Wicker King, look at this book, it's so cool, it changes as you go, and there's pictures. And she really liked the story, so I picked it up for her. And I'm glad that I did. I hadn't really heard of it or much about this book. This is about a kid named August, a teenager, he's like 17, and his best friend Jack is having these weird hallucinations about this fantasy world that kind of exists over top of our world. And it's getting worse and worse, and he's trying to get August to help him like fight this evil in the fantasy. And one thing I really liked about this is that we don't know if this fantasy world is real or not. You're kind of getting the feeling, maybe not, but what if it is? And I like that trope a lot, this is it real or not kind of thing. I enjoy those. I also really like August and Jack's relationship. They're best friends, and their friendship is developing. At school, they hang around very different groups of people, and they kind of pretend they don't know each other at school. Not because they don't, I don't know, not because of their reputation or anything. Jack's kind of more of an athlete. August hangs out with these weirdos, and they just like pretend that they don't really know each other. But it's never like in a mean way. It's pretty funny. Because there's like this scene where Jack like just walks up to August's lunch table and sits down and starts talking to him, and all of August's friends are like, why are you sitting at our table? Like, do you know each other? They've been best friends since they were like little tiny children. And like no one seems to know. What I didn't like about this, there were a couple things. August has relationships with a couple of young women in this book that to me didn't really add anything. I actually feel like I would have gotten so much more out of them, particularly one if it just stayed a friendship. I kind of get why it didn't, but it was just like there was a lot in such a little period of time and in such a small amount of book that I personally didn't feel like it added anything to me. More often than not, side romances I kind of wish just stay friendships, because I think it would be way more powerful if they did. But I did like the conclusion and everything we learned. Next up, I listened to Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. I read Allegedly by her. I think I have it. It's hiding under the flowers. Tiffany D. Jackson is really good at writing like a kind of what the fuck is going on narration, which I don't always like, and in Allegedly I did. In Monday's Not Coming, not as much. I gave this 3.5 stars. I liked, so it's about this girl, I should probably like tell you the plot. It's about a girl named Claudia, she's like 13, something like that, and her best friend Monday is just gone missing. Claudia spends her summers with family elsewhere, and she comes back and her best friend is gone, and everyone's kind of very flippant about it. It's confusing, and there's a reason it's confusing, and you find out by the end, and I feel like I would like this in a reread, knowing more what's going on. I think 3.5 was maybe a little bit of a harsh rating at the time. I would like to try to give it another go, because it was very good, and the mystery was very good, and the conclusion I thought was also very good. It was just so frustrating to read. People were so dumb. Like, Claudia's parents are the dumbest people. Like, this little girl is missing, and they're like, well, maybe she just doesn't want to be friends with you anymore, Claudia. And I'm like, overall, I did like it. If you're interested in a mystery, there is content warning for that, child abuse, like, for sure. And I haven't read a lot of happy reads this month. Sorry. Next up, I reread Sabriel by Garth Nix. I did this for rereadathon. I only reread a few books. I read this back when I was like 15 years old, and I liked it at the time. I remembered it was about like a necromancer. Kind of, yeah, that's what it's about. It is about a girl named Sabriel, and she's a necromancer, and so is her father. Sabriel's father always comes to visit her on her birthday, and he doesn't show up one year, and then this weird undead creature comes and gives Sabriel her father's weapons and leaves, and so she takes them and goes to the Old Kingdom, trying to find out what happened to him. I loved this. I loved the reread. There was very little that I remembered about it. I'm so glad I reread it. There's just so much cool in this. I really love how when there are soldiers or fighters, and this happens more in the sequel, but in this one too, but definitely in the sequel a lot more, which I also read this month, they're just described as people. Some of them are men, some of them are women. They're not like, oh, the group of men went. They're like the soldiers, and like it's a mix of people. And that's great. Like, if you want the best fighters, just pick from people, not half of the people. I loved the side romance in this because it's so small. It happens kind of quickly, and I imagine like there are people who probably wouldn't love that aspect of the romance, but because the romance was so like such a tiny part of the plot, I was totally fine with it because I didn't really need to see this big grand relationship develop. It's not what the book's about, and the romance didn't take over from the actual plot at any point, and that was great. Next up, I reread Of Metal and Wishes by Sarah Fine. This is a kind of loose Phantom of the Opera retelling. Is about a girl named Wen who works at this factory with her father back in like, it feels like the 30s, I think. And her father is a doctor there, so he takes care of men who work in the factory and get injured, and Wen helps him. So it's a little gruesome. There is a ghost at the factory, or what people believe is a ghost, and you can leave him little presents and ask for wishes. And also during this time, there's a group of people, they're called Nor, they're like another race of people who are working at this factory, and they're treated like crap, and people are telling them they're animals. It's really rough. And one day Wen is in the cafeteria having lunch, and one of the Nor embarrasses her. She goes to the shrine and is talking about the ghost, and she's saying she doesn't really believe in the ghost, so she leaves like a little bit of money, and she's like, well, prove to me you're real. And then the next day, the Nor who embarrassed her is in a really horrible accident and gets injured. After that, Wen feels so guilty that she ends up really trying to help the Nor, and ends up helping her father take care of these people that no one else really seems to care about. And she gets to know them, and one in particular named Malik, and it's a love story with them and about the ghost, and there's a lot going on here. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of like slut shaming and kind of difficult themes. Rape culture, huge in this book, so don't think like, oh, it's a fun Phantom of the Opera retelling. Like, there's a lot going on that's kind of dark, although I guess the Phantom of the Opera is kind of dark, right? But I liked this. I feel like I gave it 3.5 stars on my reread, and it's very steampunky and unique. Next up, I started Sequelathon, which was pretty successful. I had a lot of fun. Thank you if you are one of the people who joined in. I'd like to do it again. But probably this year. Let me know if you're interested. I have so many more sequels to read. So I started Sequelathon with Al Capone Shines My Shoes by Gennifer Choldenko, and it was cute. It's about, the first one is Al Capone Does My Shirts, and it's about a group of kids who live on Alcatraz in the 30s. So this one is continuing the adventures of Moose and the other children he is friends with on the island of Alcatraz, and the inmates who live there. And I like it. It's cute. This one's a little bit more exciting, which I liked. One thing I don't understand is why everyone likes Moose. Moose is the main character, and everyone apparently adores him. And they even make jokes about that. They're like, oh, everyone loves Moose because all the parents love Moose, all the kids love Moose. I don't love Moose. Moose is a little shit. I was a little shit when I was a kid. I guess I can't be that harsh, but Moose is a little shit. And I don't know. I'll definitely read the next one soon, but buck up, Moose. Figure it out, because I don't like you and all of your sexist bullshit. I know you're a 13-year-old in the 30s, but still, it's really annoying. Next, I decided to read a 700 book in 24 hours, and it was so much fun. And also, I'm super lucky that I picked Lirael by Garth Nix to read, because if it were almost any other book, I wouldn't have finished it. It is the sequel to Sabriel. It takes place a chunk of time later, and you're not following Sabriel in it, which I think is what originally made me reluctant to pick it up in the first place when I was younger. It is about Lirael, who lives with the Claire, who see the future. They have what they call the sight. And before a Claire gets the sight, the other Claire see it. They see someone getting the sight. And Lirael has not gotten sight yet, and she should have. And she is the oldest person really in this school. Eventually she ends up getting she ends up working at the library, which is so riveting. The library is so cool. It's giant, and she only has access to certain parts. So we're following Lirael for a while as she like breaks into other parts of the library she's not supposed to be in because she's very gifted with magic and finding things she probably shouldn't be finding. We also follow Sam, who is a prince. I think Sam was a little hard. He's a little hard to follow sometimes. In the beginning, when we first meet Sam, he has to do something really dangerous, and it doesn't go super well. So throughout the rest of the book, he's afraid. And it's kind of frustrating. You get a little frustrated with him. You're like, Sam, you gotta figure this out because you can't just be afraid all the time. But it was totally understandable. Like, his fear was so justified. Spoilers-ish, real quick, nothing massive, but real quick. There is not a romance in this. You kind of expect there's going to be at first Lirael and Sam, and then there is not, and then there is absolutely not. There is no romance between them. And it's pretty cool. You don't get that a lot. There is an established couple in the book that we see a couple of times, but other than that, no romance. I wonder if the next one's going to have romance. We'll find out. Next up, I got hurt because I read Blood for Blood by Graudin. This is a sequel to Wolf by Wolf, which is an alternate universe in which the Axis powers have won World War II. And this was so devastating. I listened to this on audiobook because I felt like I could get through it faster. It's kind of a chunker. I was at the grocery store when I was listening to the end of this book and had to like just pull over and just like stop and be like, pretend like I was normal and fine, and I wasn't. I did like it. I think I gave it 4 stars. I don't know. I kind of just want to talk about it with someone because overall I don't feel like I know how I feel about it. That's not good. I don't know. It was a pretty good conclusion. Fairly satisfying, I guess. The last book I read for the month is the last book I also read for Sequelathon, and it's Of Dreams and Rest by Sarah Fine, which is the sequel to Of Metal and Wishes. I can't really talk about the plot. I felt very satisfied by the conclusion of this. It's very quick. It gets into it so fast. Because it's so quick, I felt like there wasn't that much time for romance, and it's a little different from Sabriel. And Sabriel, I didn't really care that there wasn't much time for the romance because that wasn't a major part of the story. But in this case, the romance, like, is the story. It is, like, it's the central point of this, really. And so I felt like some things were rushed, but I didn't, like, ultimately give a shit that much. When it comes to romance, like, it being rushed is very low on my list of pet peeves. I know that's, like, super high on people's list of pet peeves, but no, I'm fine with it. You want to rush it? That's cool. They're kissing now. Cool. Yay. That's what I'm waiting for anyway. And to me, I don't think the payoff's better if I wait extra long. I get why people do think it's better, but I don't care. I'm glad I read this. I'm glad I reread Of Metal and Wishes. I'm glad that I read this one. It's a little rough, but it was great. It was different. It's a very different story. And also, I don't know if y'all have ever seen Wild Wild West. I hope everyone just got really intrigued. Like, what point is she gonna make that she's talking about this old Will Smith film? There are some, like, kind of steampunky creatures in this that were so Wild Wild West. And now I want to watch it. Drunk, obviously, because that's the only way to get through Wild Wild West. You have to be drunk or 9 years old. That's what I read in March. Let me know if you've read any of these. Let me know if we could talk about Blood for Blood, and you can tell me if I like the book or not, because I don't fucking know. I don't know. Join me next time when I talk about other books that I don't know how to analyze.